Hello Nidorinas and Nidorinos, I'm KingNido and today it is the Pastoria Hydros going up against the Levincia Wonders as the Hydros sitting pretty in second place. They are the side trying to move closer into that first spot and take down the Melamela Rumbles, whereas the Levincia Wonders have been on a massive losing streak and are near the bottom of the leaderboard, but they have the type advantage here today. So with that said, let us know in the comments below who you think is going to win this matchup. Will it be the water decks? Will it be the lightning decks? Let's go!
3, 2, 1, go!
And going first, as they flipped heads, it will be that power plant deck of the Levincia Wonders up against the Shell Armor deck from the Pastoria Hydros. As they're going through, they've got the Voltorb and the Magnemite. They put the Voltorb into the active spot with that Magnemite on the bench, as well as having that Magneton in hand. It's the Squirtle in the active spot for the Hydros as their only basic Pokemon, but they do have that all-important Pokeball they will be able to use soon. But first, it's the Levincia Wonders, and they draw the Electrode already, which is fantastic, but it does require 2 energy to get online, as the Hydros draw that Blastoise card that can be very powerful, especially if it gets 5 water energy on it, and they do have that Misty in hand as they pull the Shouter thanks to the Pokeball here, as they do get that first water energy onto the Squirtle, who goes with the water gun. It will be doing 20 damage to chip away here at Voltorb, who can easily respond if the Wonders choose to not evolve it here, and they pull the potion as well. So that damage that was just done by Squirtle has already been taken away, restoring Voltorb back to full strength. And the Wonders are also going to get that Magneton online here, who has that Volt Charge energy, so it can generate an extra energy from that energy zone and put it onto the Magneton, as Voltorb is going to do 40 damage thanks to that type advantage they have over the Pastoria Hydros here. And the Hydros are going to pull that Leaf as well. They've got the Cloyster in hand. They don't have the Wartortle that will help them eventually get that Blastoise online, as it looks like they are going to set up that Cloyster. They may want to retreat the Squirtle here, and they are immediately going to use that Leaf, reducing the retreat cost by 2. They only needed to retreat it by 1, but they don't want to get rid of that energy that is on Squirtle, bringing Cloyster into that active spot with that Shell Armor ability as well, as they're getting another energy onto the Squirtle. That is who they want to set up here. And the Levincia Wonders do pull their second Voltorb, but they get the second energy here onto the active Voltorb, evolving it into the Electrode. It will be able to do that additional damage, but first they are going to go with that Volt Charge to get a second energy onto the Magneton as well. That Electro Ball does an additional 20 thanks to the type advantage, but it's reduced by 10 thanks to that Shell Armor ability. Wow, that was hard to get out. That the Cloyster has, as the Professor's research is being played by the Hydros. They get their second Blastoise, but they get the all-important Wartortle. They still have that Misty in hand that they are unable to play because they can only use 1 supporter per turn, sending it back over to the Wonders, who pull their second Lieutenant Surge. They've got their own Leaf in hand as well, but there's the third energy getting onto the Magneton. It requires 4, but thanks to that Volt Charge, that 4th energy is on it now, and they do place down that Voltorb onto the bench, as the Electro Ball now from Electrode is going to take Cloyster out of this match. And this is fantastic for the Levincia Wonders. They're setting up their board really well. They've got the Electrode still at full strength, as that Wartortle is going to go into the active spot for the Hydros. They do pull their second Shoulder, and they can evolve this Wartortle, but it is not at maximum damage just yet. They've got 3 energy on it currently. They want another 2, but they have the Misty. They just need to flip 1, and they can use the energy that is on the bench. They go for this coin flip. They get a heads. This will keep going. They get a second, so they will have enough energy here onto the Blastoise. They can move the energy that is in the energy zone on to Shoulder, as they just ensure that it will be powerful enough. It will do 140 damage. It is going to wipe Electrode off the board, and just like that, the Hydros are in full control, leveling the playing field at 1 point each. But the power of this Blastoise, the Wonders are going to set up that Magneton though into the active spot. Again, keep in mind that additional 20 damage with that type advantage over the Hydros. And they have just pulled the Zapdos, which they do put down on the bench, but they're setting up the Voltorb at the moment, which is a very intelligent play because, again, if they can pull the Electrode, it only requires 2 energy. There's 80 damage done to the Blastoise, 30 health remaining. The Hydros do pull a Lapras, another Pokemon with the more water energy on it, the more powerful it can be, and they get the first water energy placed down on it here, as they need to think about how they want to approach this with Blastoise. Another 140 damage. It can take Magneton off this field, but it will be an easy target for the Voltorb as well. There's that 140 damage, and the Hydros have just taken the lead with 2 points to 1 here in game 1. And as always, like we like to reinform people, this is a best of 3 series, but that third game still counts towards the leaderboard as it comes back to the Levincia Wonders. They get the Professor's Research, which they play immediately to thin in the deck. They get the second Professor's Research, and they get another Magnemite out of that deck as well. And it looks like the Wonders are going to start setting up that Zapdos as well here, but there's the tackle from Voltorb. It is going to take out Blastoise to level the playing field, and this looks like it is still anybody's game. But the Hydros need to be quick and try and get this Voltorb off the field. They need to choose who they're putting in the active spot. They go with the Lapras if they can get a Misty and get enough water energy onto it, but they do get a Squirtle in this turn. They can keep setting up this Lapras, so it only requires 1 energy, but like we mentioned, it becomes more powerful if it can get 4 water energy onto it here. So for the time being, it's just going to do 20 damage to the Voltorb. As the Wonders have an opportunity to respond, they do pull a Magneton as well, so they can start setting that up once again like we saw in the earlier game with the first Magneton. They play the Professor's Research, they get the Electrode. That is massive. This Electrode will be able to do 90 damage to the Lapras. It won't be enough to take it out of the game, but it will keep the Wonders in full control. And there's another Volt Charge that we saw happening earlier. This time, this Magneton getting its first energy, but this Electro Ball, 90 damage to the Lapras. It has 10 health remaining. The Hydros need to pull the Misty, and they get the Pokeball instead. This is not good. They may have to retreat the Lapras, but nobody will be able to survive a hit from the Electrode. With that said though, they may pull the second Lapras, and that they do, so they've gotten that out of the deck. They are going to put that down onto their bench, and they've still got that Leaf in hand as well, so they can retreat the active Lapras without discarding any of the energy that are on it here. So it retreats, they put that Lapras into the active spot. It will be able to outlast an attack from this Electrode. It will also be getting another 20 damage onto the Lightning type as well, but it has 40 health remaining. Lapras at full strength, another Pokeball being pulled for the Levincia Wonders. Now we know they've only got 1 Zapdos in that deck, but they do have the Electabuzz, which is what is pulled. It's from the Mythical Island as well, and they are going to set that up there on the bench as they can decide how they want to approach this. They have that energy that they can choose from. They could use a Lieutenant Surge, but that may not be what they need right now. And they are taking their time whether or not they want to get a second energy. They're going to retreat the Electrode. It doesn't cost any energy here. They do put that Magneton into the active spot, but the Lieutenant Surge only works on Electabuzz and Electrode, so it's interesting to see what they're going with here, unless they've made a calculated error. And they can use the Volt Charge. We know that Lapras won't be able to take out the Magneton, and Magneton won't be able to take out the Electrode, as it currently cannot go on the offensive either. But the Wonders may have just made an error putting that Magneton into the active spot, since we know Electrode is more powerful, but they are still thinking about how they want to do this. And they opt to send it back over to the Pastoria Hydros, who have pulled the Wartortle. So if they want, they can try and set up this Blastoise as well. This game has slowed down, but the Lapras in that active spot being set up still. They do get that second energy onto it, but like we said, it requires 4. There may not be enough time because Magneton only requires 1 more, and they've just pulled the potion, so they are going to restore the health of that Magneton back to full strength. And they can use this extra energy to get a second energy here onto Zapdos. The Volt Charge getting that 4th energy onto Magneton, and they are going to get 80 damage here onto the active Lapras. And at this point, it does look like the Wonders are in full control. They do pull the Giovanni. The Hydros, they really need to think about how they're going to approach this, because it looks like they've been backed into a corner by the Wonders. They could go for another Hydro Pump or retreat the Lapras. If they go for the Hydro Pump, they will be giving up the game, but they're going to try and continue pushing forwards, putting that Blastoise into the active spot. They can't go on the offensive right now as another Pokeball being pulled for the Levincia Wonders. I believe they've cleared their deck though of any basic Pokemon, but they do get the third energy here onto the Zapdos. Another Volt Charge for the Magneton. The next point will win this game. They are going to retreat the Magneton. They put in the Zapdos into the active spot. It will do 120 damage to Blastoise here, but in the process it does 30 damage to one of its own teammates. That is the sacrifice made by that Power Plant deck who pulled the clues that they needed the Misty, and unfortunately things are not going to go their way here in game 1. They're unable to retreat the Blastoise, and it looks like they're just going to have to send it back to the Wonders, where this Zapdos can get off another 120 damage and take down the Shell Armor deck of the Hydros, again doing 30 damage, this time to the Electabuzz on their bench. But with that said, they've taken game 1 over the Pastoria Hydros, who have not lost a series since the very first game of the season. As we go into game 2, and it is the heads being flipped by the Pastoria Hydros, they will be using that Frozen Pond deck against the Levincia Wonders static web deck. They do put the Froakie into the active spot with the Poliwag onto the bench, and they've got the Poliwag and Poliwrath in hand as the Wonders. They've got the Joltik, the Tynamo, and the Pincurchin, all 3 basic Pokemon in hand, but they've got the Electros and the Galvantula in hand as well, going with the Tynamo in the active spot, putting the other 2 basic Pokemon onto the bench. But here we go into game 2. And it is starting off with the Hydros. They are going to pull the Articuno. Unfortunately, we don't get to see the Articuno going up against the Zapdos in this contest, but they do send it back over to the Wonders, keeping the Articuno in hand, who pull a second Electric. I believe I might have said Electros earlier on, but the Tiny Charge from the Tynamo is going to do 50 damage, but Froakie has 60 health, so it will have 10 health remaining as the Misty is pulled for the Pastoria Hydros, and already that Froakie is not in a good place, so they are going to put an energy on to the Poliwhirl here, and they're going to play the Misty onto the Articuno, going with the coin flip. Every heads, and they get the first one. This will continue until they get Tails, but unfortunately they get Tails on that second flip. Now they could have already had 2 energy onto the Articuno, but they may have decided that decision after putting that energy onto the Poliwhirl. The Pokeball being pulled for the Levincia Wonders, they can get another basic Pokemon out of their deck, this time the second Joltik being taken out. And there's the first energy being put onto the bench Joltik. This Electric does not require any extra energy, so it can do 40 damage just with the Headbolt, and again that weakness that the Pastoria Hydros have, 60 damage to take this Froakie off, and the first point goes to the Levincia Wonders, who are in early control of game 2 here. And the Hydros opting to put the Articuno into the active spot, and this is where that error may cost them, that they don't have 2 energy onto that Articuno right now, but they do have the Poliwrath on the line, who has that counter attack ability, so if it is hit by an opposing Pokemon, it does do 20 damage in return, as they send it back over to the Levincia Wonders. And they have pulled the Sabrina, so they can actually force that Poliwrath into the active spot, and they've got the Galvantula set up, who can cause the active Pokemon to be unable to retreat, but they are going with the Headbolt onto the Articuno, so they don't want to deal with that Poliwrath just yet, getting that 60 damage onto the Articuno, and it's the second Articuno being pulled for the Pastoria Hydros here, as the active one does get its third energy, and it can do 60 damage to that Electric, but it won't be able to take it off the field. But there is that potential for the paralysis, however they have flipped the tails, so Electric will be able to avoid that. And it is now the Dedenne being pulled for the Levincia Wonders, also capable of leaving the opposing Pokemon paralyzed, just like Pincurchin and Articuno on the field can. And it looks like the Wonders were contemplating retreating the Electric, but instead they just put an energy onto the Pincurchin, and they are going to finish off the Articuno here with that Electric, taking that second point. The Hydros still don't have a point in game 2 here, as the Wonders just need one more to ensure that they will take the series. And the second Poliwrath is pulled, but the active Poliwrath only has 1 energy, just getting that second one now. It requires 3 though to start going on the offensive, and they are thinking about putting that Articuno down, but they opt to not, as the Electros is pulled for the Levincia Wonders. Now this requires 3 energy to start going on the offensive. So they do require now to put another 2 on it. Otherwise, they are just leaving it open for the Poliwrath to take out, and that may be their choice here, as they are going to put an energy onto the Pincurchin. Both the Pincurchin and the Galvantula having 2 energy, and they place the Dene down onto the bench, and the Hydra is pulling that second Poliwag here, but they're not concerned with that. They're looking for this Poliwrath to maximize its damage with the Mega Punch, doing 80 damage to take the Electros off the field, and the Hydras have taken their first point here in game 2 as they're trying to work their way back into it. Now, there is no Pokemon that the Wonders have out that can survive a hit from Poliwrath, as they pull their second Sabrina here. They are going to put the Joltik onto the bench, giving it another energy, or its first energy, but it's the Electro Web doing 90 damage to the Poliwrath. However, it will do that counter attack, 20 damage in return to the Galvantula. Now, Poliwrath cannot retreat, but there's no one on the bench. The Hydras are not concerned with that. They're just trying to get off as much damage here. They get another energy onto the Poliwrath. This Mega Punch, 80 damage to take out the Galvantula. Now the Wonders really need to think about how they want to approach this next. They can go with the Pincurchin and hope for a paralysis. They can go with the Joltik and hope that they can pull the Galvantula. But the Hydras may have just worked their way back into a victory here. And it is going to be that Pincurchin. It only does 30 damage. It's not enough, as the Pokeball is pulled for the Levincia Wonders. They are going to play that, and they do get the Tynamo out, but Tynamo also won't be able to do enough damage, so they need this Pincurchin to get the paralysis. That is what will determine who wins this matchup. And they go for the Thunder Shock. It does the 50 damage. The counter attack is going to have to wait because it's the coin flip, and they get the paralysis. That is massive. The Wonders have shut out Poliwrath from being able to go on the offensive in this next turn. It does do the 20 damage in that counter attack, but there's nothing the Hydras can do right now. They can't retreat the Poliwrath. They can't attack. It is stuck there. They can put out the Poliwag. They can put out the Articuno, but again, they are looking at their hand, hoping that the Hydras can do something. They put the Poliwag into place. They put the Articuno into place. They are out of options here. They put an energy onto the Articuno. They still can't retreat the Poliwrath. There is nothing they can do but send it back over to the Levincia Wonders. Poliwrath may have healed from the paralysis, but that does not matter now because they can wipe it off the board. They are going to try and maximize the damage though, because they're going to retreat the Pincurchin using the Electros, and this is clever because the more damage they can get done, that will help with their placing on the leaderboard. 60 damage to take out the Poliwrath. They have defeated the Pastoria Hydras. This is the first series they have lost since round 1. And the Wonders definitely needed that victory as their season was looking very bleak. But the Hydras going into game 3, they want to take this one. They still want to try and offset these 2 losses as they are using that Aquatic Ambience deck that will be going first against the Surging Sparks deck of the Levincia Wonders here. They've got the Psyduck and the Tentacle in hand, plus the Golduck that they won't be able to play yet, just yet. The Wonders have the Helioptile, wow, that was hard to say, plus the Blitzel and the Pikachu. They've got the Raichu and the Heliolisk in hand as well. And they do set up that Pikachu on the bench with the Helioptile, which I set up much better that time, into the active spot. It's the Tentacle in the active spot for the Hydras with that Psyduck on the bench. And again, this game 3 is still important to the Hydras. They need to try and offset as much of the damage that was done, and if they can take this game through, the retreat, the X-Beats are being pulled for the Levincia Wonders, but that Tail Whap onto Tentacle from Helioptile doing 40 damage. Again, that Wonders typing advantage over the Hydras is massive in this series, as they look like they're just concerned with setting up the Psyduck. They know that Tentacle is an easy target. Evolving it into the Golduck already, it would be able to take out that Helioptile in one go, as the second Helioptile is pulled for the Levincia Wonders as well. But they do evolve it into the Heliolisk, which can outlast the turn from the Golduck, and they evolve the Pikachu into the Raichu as well, as they get that second energy onto the Heliolisk. It is a coin flip that does 40 damage, but it can do an extra 40 with the heads. Unfortunately, they get the tails, but they do still get that weakness advantage, so it does 60 damage. That could have been 100 that it was doing to that Tentacle. And that is something this Golduck is going to have to worry about, because this Heliolisk can actually take it out in one turn, as the Hydros fortunately pull their second Psyduck, and they've got that second Golduck in hand, but they still require this energy to go onto the Golduck so it can go on the offensive. So it is going to do that 70 damage to the Heliolisk, but that Heliolisk, like we keep saying, can take it out in one go, as the second Blitzel is pulled for the Levincia Wonders, and they're starting to put energy onto this Raichu from the Mythical Island set. But here is the quick attack. However, they hesitate and they go back to put the Blitzel on the bench first, and they are now going to go for the quick attack. They flip the coin and they get the tails. So this Golduck will still be safe for the time being. Safe being a very soft word there, as it has 30 health remaining. It can take out the Heliolisk though, as the Hydros pull the Finneon from their deck, but they are going to start putting energy onto that benched Psyduck as the Wonders. They still have that early point, which has them in full control, having taken out that Tentacle, but this Aqua Edge from Golduck is going to level the playing field, taking Heliolisk out of the match. Now the Wonders can keep trying to set up this Raichu, and that is what they're going to do. They're not going to use the Blitzel to take the Golduck out of this match, even though they have just pulled the Zebstrika, who would be able to take out that Golduck very easily, but they are going to play the X-Speed, so clearly they have changed their mind. They're going to retreat the Raichu. That does cost them that energy that they had put onto it, but this will put that Blitzel into the active spot, evolving it into the Zebstrika. It only requires 1 energy, but it can do 30 damage to any of the Pastoria Hydros Pokemon. However, it will take out that active Golduck, and it does get the weakness as well, thanks to it being the active Pokemon. And very easily the Wonders have taken back the lead, taking that second point. The Hydros putting that Golduck into the active spot here as they pull the Pokemon Flute as well, in case they want that Heliolisk back from the discard pile of the Wonders. But they are going with this Aqua Edge onto the Zebstrika, leaving it with 20 health remaining. The Wonders pull the genetic Apex Raichu now as they place down that second Blitzel. They're going to place down the Helioptile, giving it its first energy, as well as the Thunder Spear is going to go for that active Golduck here, doing 50 damage. And the Hydros will be able to take out this Zebstrika, but Golduck is still well within elimination range. There it is, taking out the Zebstrika, but the Wonders can wipe Golduck off the board here, and all they have to do is make the intelligent choice of putting that Helioptile into the active spot as they're looking at their bench. That is what they're going to do. And after having a really rough run, they've pulled the Heliolisk as well, so they can maximize that damage count here in Game 3 and take the clean sweep over the Pastoria Hydros with this coin flip, and they get the heads as well just for that additional damage. 100 damage to take Golduck out, and the Wonders get a clean sweep over the Hydros, suffering their first loss since round 1. That is massive here. As next round, the Hydros will be going up against the Kitakami Rogues, but the Wonders have moved themselves up to just outside the top 5, and next round they will be going up against the Cinnabar Blazers. But until then, Nidorinos, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below what you thought was the best card was. If you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a like, share, subscribe, but more importantly, always remember, send thanks, and I will see you when you see me.